Education is the key to success, but what if the lock has changed and only a select few have been given the master key? This is Almost Adulting, a series where I talk about the messy transition into adulthood. Hi, hello, hi, welcome back to Life with Naya. I'm Naya, and in today's episode, I'm going to briefly touch on something that happened in my personal life. And as much as this episode could just be a crash out and me getting angry and annoyed and upset, I wanted to channel these negative feelings into a more productive outlet. Hence, I ended up writing this article, which at the time that I'm writing this is almost 978 words. And by the time I finish writing it, I have no clue how long it will be. I don't know. I still have to proofread and actually go through it, but I just wanted to sit down and talk because I thought that would help me be able to put my words in a more concise manner, which is why I tend to do Almost Adulting in this way where recently I got accepted into my dream university. I was so excited. I was making so many videos about going back to school. I love school. I've always valued education, probably more than other people my age, but there's also a lot of like-minded individuals who value school just as much as me. And those who are discouraged by the education system, I don't blame them when things like this happen. So I got accepted into my dream school. I was offered a scholarship and a grant, right? In total, it's like $29,000. So 30,000. English, 30,000. Now the tuition per semester is 60,000. So I was going to take out student loans as well as possibly looking into private loans, but I really wanted to avoid private loans because that is a type of debt that I did not want to incur to achieve, to access my education. Like, go into adulthood free from the shackles of debt, and others not so much, okay? And even though I was willing to incur debt, I was not willing to incur stupid debt. So I started going through the process. I was a late admit because, I applied during rolling admissions. They admitted me in late July, and I was reaching out to my academic advisor. I was reaching out to the people who told me were on my case. I was reaching out and doing the things that I could do as a student. But I figured, maybe they have a separate system for late enrollment students, and that's why they're not reaching out to me. At this point, I was getting communication from the university about things like orientation. So I'm thinking, okay, well, when it comes to things like tuition payment, they'll probably, alert me beforehand because they were sending me emails about being opted into their health insurance and stuff like that. And they're like, hey, if you want to waive this, you have to submit blah, 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 blah. And so I'm like, okay, so clearly if there was something pertinent, they would send it to me. Or so I thought. Trying to get in contact with the school. I'm calling almost every day. I'm like, I want to hear from somebody. When I finally get in contact, what they will tell me is that the tuition payment deadline was August 4th. At this time, it was the week before school starts. Well, no, the week before school starts. I'm going to put a calendar up here with the timeline because I don't remember the day. I'm sorry. So I find this out and I'm like, so you had the time to tell me about orientation, tell me about health insurance, but you don't message me telling me when the tuition deadline is approaching. And if that is not intentional, I don't know what is. Okay. So I'm trying to get literally anybody that I can on the phone. Communication abysmal. It's terrible. Atrocious. Okay. This is not supposed to be a rant. I'm supposed to keep it cute. I'm supposed to keep it put together. You need the setup to understand how we got to my statement. Education is the key to success. But what if the lock has been changed? Okay. We need to go through this before we start talking about it. Okay. So I'm calling, I get in contact. The person I get in contact with, to say that they lacked empathy, to say that they were not trying to understand, to say that they were like, oh, well, you have to pay tuition like immediately. And because you're a late enrollment student, on their own website, it says because I was a late admit student, I would have to make the first 2 monthly installments of their payment plan the week before school starts. When I'm talking to the person on the phone and I'm trying to see like, hey, so if it were to take slightly longer to get these things arranged, they were now telling me, they were just informing me that there's something wrong with my FAFSA. Couldn't tell me that before. Okay. They were just informing me that there's something wrong with my FAFSA, all of these things. And I'm like, so if it takes longer for me to get this money, for me to pay this tuition and, to be able to attend classes, what exactly would happen? And he was like, oh, well, you have to pay immediately. Like you'll be able to attend the first week of classes, by the second week of classes, you would be dropped from your classes. So you want me to incur debt, to attend the school for a week with all of these problems. And then if you drop me from my classes, I'm still expected to pay tuition, but I'm not getting the education that you are promising me, right? So after talking with my family members, I decided that I was going to withdraw from the university. I decided I would start the withdrawal process and I would remove myself from the situation because I did not want to start classes and then get dropped and then still owe them this ridiculous tuition balance of $15,000. And it wasn't even $15,000 flat. Like there's like $900 and something on top of that as well. If I can find the tuition balance, I'll put it up here. But it was a lot. I was like, I'm not doing this. this seems like the stupidest financial decision I could ever make. Like, that's gifting 18-year-old me a lifetime of paying off debt. Like, that's almost 10, 15, 20, 30 years of debt to pay off. And I was not about to do that to myself. So I withdrew. Does that mean that they got to keep that $500 deposit? Yes. I hope y'all enjoy that $500. And I hope that you treat your incoming students better than you treated me. Okay. I hope that you communicate better because this was atrocious. Then they had the whole grain gluten-free audacity to send me an email asking me to fill out a form about why I chose to withdraw. I've yet to fill that out, but honestly, maybe I should, and just let the problems be known, because who doesn't send an email about when the tuition payment deadline is? Like, why would you not send that? Like, of all things that you're sending, you don't think to send that one? Because I'm sure had there been more time and not a week turnaround, I may have been able to finesse something. But clearly, this was just not meant for me. In the last episode, we talked about how at some point in time I was seriously considering joining the United States military as a way to fund my education, and then I quickly realized that no, that is not what I want. One, morally, don't agree with that. Two, do you see these stick arms? I exercise, but not enough for that, okay? So this, and in the distance, like, the school is far away from me, like, things really started to just, like, it was like forcing my puzzle piece to fit in a larger picture that just was not matching. Like, clearly, this is not the path for me. So I do think I am one of those people who thinks that everything happens for a reason. But that does not mean that I should have ever been put in the situation that I was put in, because I had the necessary skill, the caliber, the qualification to attend my dream school. Okay, it was my dream school at the time, before these, like, the rose tinted glasses were off and I was able to see all these things. I I have a 4.0 GPA. Like, bro, I can go to that school, and I'd probably, top my classes and, like, do what I need to do, get on the dean's list, do, like, hello, I'm not a dumb kid. I've always been a smart kid, and I know that. But because I come from a low income background, there's certain things that just aren't accessible to me, and that is exactly what prompted me writing the Substack article, because I wanted to know exactly when, how, and why the entry to higher education has become so difficult. Why have the barriers to entry just seem to have accumulated throughout the years? Because college was not always this expensive. I think we all know that it was never this expensive, and that it has increased substantially. Researching for this article, because my last article, I did not do research. My last article was just me writing out my thoughts, and that can't even be called an article. That was just a little writing piece. That was just a little right? This one, I actually sat down. I was doing research. I was trying to go on Google Scholar and get academic papers. But you know what's funny? These people are writing academic papers talking about how money is becoming a barrier for students to enter higher education, while simultaneously putting their papers behind paywalls. So a lot of the papers, a lot of the things that I wanted to read, it was behind a paywall, and I'm not paying you money for that. I'm sorry. I just needed somebody to, like, affirm my opinion or to add evidence and statistics to my opinion. I'm not paying you for that. Okay, because no idea, no thought is truly original. Like, I knew that my thought, the feelings that I was having, is not a unique experience. This is a systemic issue that so many people smarter than me, have definitely talked about this. But despite the fact that I knew that this was a systemic issue, and the irony of certain things being behind paywalls, it still felt like a moral failing. It still felt like a personal failure. I felt like I did not work hard enough. I did not put enough work. I should have worked harder in order to buy into the meritocracy of our society. I felt like I did not do enough. That it was a personal failing. That I let down my nana, my mom, my aunt. Like, I let down the people in my life. But I had the qualifications. It is literally not me. Ooh, okay. Let's drink some water, okay? Because I feel like Spitfire. I'm coming at you with a lot, okay? Because it's still very fresh. Today would have been the day that I attended, like, this would have been my first week of school. This top was the outfit that this is what I was going to wear for my first day of school. I bought my school supplies. I was prepping my pencil case, all of these things. I was getting ready to attend, like, college in the fall 2026 semester. And it is so unfortunate that that is just not the case anymore. Anywho, that water was definitely necessary. I have been yapping a lot. Okay. So what is I talking about? It felt like a personal failing. And those feelings are what prompted me to go and do the research, to find the statistics, to almost, like, prove to myself and my brain that, like, even though I knew that it wasn't my fault, it still felt like my fault. And I was like, you know what? If I go and I write this thing and I look at all this data, then factually, babes, it's not your fault. It's not. The system is flawed. And while, yes, we could resign ourselves to the system and say, I'm just going to give up, like, college is not worth it. It's not worth the cost. It's not worth the amount of money. One, you can't even say that, which I do get into in my article, because college is we are at a time where college degrees are valued now more than ever. But whatever, that's not what I'm going to get into here. I'm not really getting into like the statistics of it all here. I'm just kind of like talking about it and like thinking it through. We are the next generation, right? Gen Z, we have the ability to change things, but at the same, we can also feel so powerless, like we're just cogs in this machine. Eventually, the boomers who are running these terrible systems, benefiting from these terrible systems, cutting aid, cutting these programs, making the situation worse for us, they're gonna, right? And we're gonna be the ones in charge of this, and we can choose to keep going along with the system. We can choose to wait until the system collapses in on itself, which it's already doing, or we can try and fix the system. We can try and make a new system. We can decide what we want to do to make life better for ourselves. And let's talk about some of these hurdles, because a lot of these hurdles have to do with the way that we as a society now view tertiary education and college. And so, yeah, I'm gonna connect my mic directly from my Substack article now. Okay. So, I have my laptop here. It honestly kind of makes me sad. I was so excited. I decorated my laptop for school. I decorated my laptop for school. It's like I see the shadows haunting me. I see all the things that I was doing everywhere, and I'm just like, she didn't know. Like, she did not know that I didn't think I beat the system. I thought that I was working within the system, and I'm still going to continue to try to work within the system. Like, when one door closes in your face, baby, find a window. Dig a tunnel. Jump over the fence. Like, find a way in. Find a way in. My password is not typed in. My bad. Also, as per usual with Almost Adulting, there is not a structure. Almost Adulting does not have a structure. So for anybody new here, hi! Almost Adulting is like very unstructured. Okay, I just kind of thought. I just kind of spit thoughts at you, and then we have a little discussion about the thoughts that I've just thrown at you. You know, I think it's fun. Oh, speaking of discussion, on my last video, I got a comment. I love getting comments. Okay, I do. I don't get them very often, but sometimes it's like my video hits the algorithm right, and I get a comment, and I got a lovely comment. Gonna insert the comment here. So shout out to you. That comment quite literally made my day. I was like, oh my gosh, I've accomplished my goal, because the whole goal of Almost Adulting, like, I want to connect with other people my age going through these same things. Okay, so the Substack article is entitled "Under Lock and Key: Education is the Key to Success, but what if the lock has changed?" And the specific babes, this is not a book. The specific paragraph that I want to read is this one right here. Costs, risk, and responsibilities associated with college were shifted away from society as a whole and onto individual students and their families. This phenomenon can be described as radical individualism. Radical individualism is a byproduct of capitalism, as market economies rely on private property, personal contract, and competitive self-interests. This structure breaks down older community ties, replacing collective survival with personal economic accountability, consumer identity, and social isolation. The question shifted from how do we fund education as a public good to how much should individual students pay for the private investment in their education. Students began to evaluate different tertiary education institutes by their prospects from the perspective of a consumer looking for the best place to purchase their degree. Since this reconstitution of students as consumers, universities now incentivize students to attend through standard customer recruitment practices utilized by corporations. A university, okay, is not and should never be a corporation. The original intention of tertiary education was to, further educate the citizens of a country. The smarter your citizens, the better it is for your country, right? Somebody educating themselves in college is for the betterment of society as a whole. But because we no longer see it as such, because we see it as a private investment into an individual's career instead of something that's going to help the betterment, like society as a whole, now we no longer value education the same. Universities and colleges are operating as businesses, selling brands to us. There's a reason that before my school reached out to me to tell me about any issues with my financial aid, they reached out asking me if I want a free hat, if I want free university merchandise, which I did take the free university merchandise, so I still have my free hat. Sorry. I love how I went from being like, I'm like, yeah, let me read my data, to I got a free hat. Suck it. I didn't leave with nothing, but I did leave them with my $500, so I guess the hat wasn't so free, was it? Anywho. Education is not a service industry. There is no guaranteed ROI. It is a covenant of trust between students and these institutions. Education, college, is not and should never be a transactional relationship. But unfortunately, that is what we've made it. Okay? Because of that, is education truly the key to success now? Or is it money? Is it wealth? Is it connections? Is it networking? Because you can be ridiculously smart. We could probably have the next Albert Einstein in the making, but unfortunately that Albert Einstein is living in an impoverished town and they don't have access to any resources to assist them so that they can attend university and develop their intellect. The thing, the system has done such a great job of making it seem like this is a moral failure. Wait, no, sorry. Personal flaw. It's not. Poverty is not a personal flaw. It's a systemic flaw. We shouldn't have billionaires and then there's people struggling to just live and have basic necessities. Like that shouldn't be the case. Like if you can't see that as a systemic flaw, baby, I don't know what is. And yeah. I think we all fall victim to it, to blaming ourselves, because it's much easier to do that. Because when you start to realize that, okay, these things are kind of like outside of my control and it's in the hands of a larger system, then you feel even more hopeless than if it is just your fault. Because if it is just your fault, that just means that you need to find the magic key, the master key, if you will, to open the lock. But if it's a systemic issue, okay, the fact that a first world country does not have free education, insane in the membrane, insane in the membrane. But that's just to give you a little idea of what my Substack article entails. And I just don't know how to end it. That's why it's like in red, highlighted in red. I don't really know how to end it. Like, how do I wrap up my thoughts? What do we do to fix the system that's so clearly broken? What I don't know. I don't have an answer. Unfortunately, hence I'm gonna post this because surely somebody else out there is in a similar situation or just like has like I don't know. I don't know. And it's really hard not to be discouraged and to just want to give up. But I refuse to just give up. Like there's always a second chance. There's always more opportunities to try unless you're dead. You know, like that's the only time where you can't try again to our knowledge. We don't know if people come back from the dead, okay? But for the most part, like, you still have time. We can still try and fix this, you know, until our last breath. But nobody should have to work for the rest of their life. I don't think humans were ever meant to live like this with these extreme stakes and pressure so high on like young students and stuff like that. Because with college being so competitive, students are pushing themselves to the brink, and then sometimes that's still not enough. And I think that is so like gut wrenching and just unfortunate. So yeah, I don't really know how to wrap this up. That is the end of episode 2 of Almost Adulting. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any thoughts on this topic, then please comment them down below. Let's talk about this because I don't know how to end this. I don't know how to conclude my Substack article or this video. So yeah, but thanks so much for watching and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.